the story you tell yourself, how meaning shapes who you are. There is a sentence that can change the way you see your entire life. You are not what happened to you. You are how you explained it to yourself. It sounds poetic, but in fact, it's a profound psychological truth. Every experience you've had, success, loss, love, betrayal, doesn't define you by itself. What defines you is the story your mind built around it. Let's explore how this inner storyteller shapes identity, emotions, and even destiny. Inside every one of us lives a narrator, the psychological mechanism that gives meaning to experience. You may not hear it consciously, but it's always active, interpreting events. That happened because I'm unlucky. They left because I'm not good enough. I failed, so I'm not capable. This narrator turns raw events into narratives, and those narratives become the structure of your identity. In psychology, this process is called meaning-making, the brain's natural need to assign causes, consequences, and morals to everything that happens. Life is not what happens, but how you frame it. Two people can live through the same situation and come out entirely different. One loses confidence. The other gains wisdom. The event is the same, only the interpretation differs. Psychologist Aaron Temkin Beck, founder of cognitive therapy, discovered that emotional suffering often comes not from the events themselves, but from the automatic thoughts we attach to them. These thoughts become lenses that distort our perception of reality. Another researcher, Viktor Frankl, survivor of Nazi concentration camps and founder of logotherapy, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Frankl's insight changed modern psychology. Meaning is not given by life, it is created by the mind. How the brain builds meaning. Our brains are narrative-making machines. From an evolutionary perspective, stories helped humans survive. They gave structure to chaos. Understanding cause and effect meant predicting the future. Neuroscientific studies show that the brain's default mode network, active during rest and daydreaming, is also responsible for self-reflection and autobiographical memory. In simple terms, when your mind wanders, it's writing the story of you. But this storyteller is biased. It edits, exaggerates, dramatizes, and generalizes, not to deceive, but to maintain internal coherence. The goal is psychological stability, not objective truth. The power of interpretation. Imagine two sentences. I failed. I learned what doesn't work. Both describe the same event, but the emotional consequences are radically different. The first narrative creates guilt and paralysis. The second creates learning and movement. This mechanism is the essence of cognitive reframing, a technique used in modern psychotherapy. By changing the way you explain an event, you literally rewire your brain's emotional response. Functional magnetic resonance imaging studies show that when people reinterpret negative experiences in a constructive way, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, reduces activity, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning and planning, becomes more active. In other words, new story, new brain pattern. Why we become prisoners of our stories. The brain loves consistency. Once it builds a narrative, I'm not good enough, people can't be trusted, I always mess things up, it filters reality to confirm it. This is known as confirmation bias. Even when new experiences contradict the story, the mind twists them to fit the script. That's why personal change feels so difficult. It's not reality that resists. It's the story that protects itself. The inner narrator becomes both author and jailer. The freedom to rewrite. Here lies the good news. Stories are not fixed. You can't rewrite the past, but you can rewrite what it means. When people in therapy retell painful memories from a position of strength, something powerful happens. The emotional tone changes. The memory remains, but the interpretation transforms from victimhood to agency. Psychologists call this process narrative reconstruction. Studies show it improves resilience, reduces anxiety, and increases life satisfaction. Your brain doesn't care whether the new story is old or new. It only cares that it makes sense and feels coherent. So when you rewrite your narrative, you literally change your internal reality. The mini practice, rewriting the inner story. Let's try a short, evidence-based exercise inspired by narrative therapy and cognitive reframing. Step 1. Recall a defining memory. Think of a situation that still feels emotionally heavy. A failure, a breakup, a missed opportunity. Step 2. Write down the story your mind tells. Be honest. Write it as your inner narrator usually says it. I failed because I wasn't good enough. They left because I'm not worth staying for. Step 3. Find another possible story. Now imagine someone else lived the same moment. How would they interpret it? I failed because I took a risk. They left because they had their own fears. Step 4. Choose the version that gives you strength. You are not forced to believe the first draft. The brain accepts repetition as truth. So every time you retell your story differently, you build new neural connections. Repeat this practice with small daily events. Gradually, you'll notice that the mind learns flexibility. It stops dramatizing and starts integrating. The science of reframing. In the 2000s, researchers at Stanford and Yale studied how narrative identity predicts well-being. They found that people who describe past adversity as a source of growth show higher emotional resilience and lower depression rates. Neuropsychologist Richard Davidson demonstrated that individuals who reframe emotions constructively activate regions linked to motivation and empathy, not stress and withdrawal. Meaning, quite literally, sculpts the brain. The emotional impact of self-stories. Your story influences not only thoughts, but hormones, heart rate, and immune function. Chronic victim narratives keep the stress system activated, flooding the body with cortisol. On the other hand, empowering interpretations release dopamine and oxytocin, neurochemicals that support optimism and connection. So changing your inner story is not positive thinking. It's biology. How to recognize a limiting story. Ask yourself, does this explanation make me feel smaller or stronger? Does it open possibilities or close them? Does it belong to the past, or does it still control my present? If the story reduces your agency, it's not truth, it's programming, and all programming can be updated. The myth of objectivity. People often say, I'm just being realistic. But realism is subjective. Reality passes through perception, memory, and emotion, and comes out as a personalized narrative. The mind doesn't show you what happened. It shows you a story that makes sense according to your previous experiences. Accepting that you are the storyteller, not a passive witness, gives back the creative power to redefine meaning. The courage to edit your own life. Every story has 3 acts: the past you came from, the present you live in, and the future you imagine. Many people stay stuck because they keep rewriting Act 1. True growth begins when you start rewriting Act 3, the vision of who you are becoming. When you consciously shift your narrative from what was done to me to what I am creating now, your entire mental architecture begins to change. The deep insight. You are not a sum of events. You are the interpretation of them. Your identity is not a biography, but a living text, constantly rewritten in your mind. The pen has always been in your hand. At any moment, you can choose to write a new chapter, not by erasing the old ones, but by changing their meaning. That's not denial, that's authorship. Think of it this way. Every emotion is a sentence your brain writes to make sense of life. You can't control every event, but you can edit the language in which you tell it. And once you learn to edit your story, you no longer live as the victim of experience, you live as its author. When you change the story, you change the self. And when you change the self, the world around you changes with it.